right
Or
now.
perhaps they've always been against it, but they didn't have the political backbone or the political cover to say why they couldn't support it.
That could be.
And now they can, because you're right. It's been around for a while. It's been difficult to get it through several generations of Congresses. But I'm sure that when Barack Obama was elected as president, that organized labor thought that this would not be a problem at all and that the support would always be there. And of course, the administration wasn't about to get so far out in front of a piece of legislation that they knew that the votes were pretty soft. And until they could shore that up, they probably weren't going to,
Well, and not just votes in Congress, but support amongst the American people. We've found that the more people learn about this issue, the less they support it. And that's a large part why the Alliance to Protect Nevada Jobs.
The Alliance to Protect Nevada Jobs. Let's put that on the Facebook page, Jesse, okay?
You got it.
Okay, it's there. Boy, I'll never forget it now.
That's a large part of why our organization has come to fruition right now. We've been doing work here in Nevada for some time, but we've taken a more formalized approach now, simply because of the fact that with the elections coming up, we need to educate Nevadans about this legislation, let them know that it exists, let them know what it does, and let them know where candidates for office stand on it. And so it's not just votes in Congress that's been weak and soft. It's some more support among the American people.
Sure. Now, the holding a candidate's feet to the fire that's running for state legislative office, what do you think, can you project what you think is going to be the overall response out of candidates? Do you think that perhaps there's even incumbents that are running for re-election that don't know or understand about the legislation?
Incumbents running for re-election, I'm not sure. Candidates running for the first time, as we've distributed our questionnaires and followed up with campaigns to make sure they received them, see if they have any questions. A number of first-time candidates did have questions, and talking to them about the legislation and letting them know a little bit about what it does, like you and I are doing this morning. They've gone through a process that they recognize this is job-killing legislation, and I oppose it. So our questionnaires are out in the field right now. We received a number of them back. Number of them still to come in, and we'll be watching to see what comes back.
Now, we could dance around this for a while, but there's really no need to. The organized labor has been part and parcel the turnout machine for the Democrat Party for a long time. It doesn't mean that the rank and file of union members necessarily vote for Democrats down the line, but they certainly are the heft behind organization for Democrats. Do you foresee that Democrat legislators are willing to walk lockstep here in the state with organized labor on this?
Well, and that's for I'm not going to prejudge an elected official.
Oh, man, McKay, I gave you a crystal ball, and you looked in it, and you say, wait a minute, is this a bowling ball or a crystal ball? I understand.
There are a number of Democrats who have rejected this legislation, and prominent ones. I mean, Dianne Feinstein, our neighbors to the left in California, has been,
literally
has been vocally outspoken against this legislation. This is not a Democrat-Republican issue, although some in the labor unions and some in Congress have tried to portray it that way. This is truly just a jobs issue, and bipartisan support against this legislation, and I think that we'll find that here in Nevada as well. Who specifically, I don't know, but I think we'll find that as well.
Now, legislation in its current form, do you think organized labor is going to be willing to take half a loaf on this? Strip out the secret ballot stuff, but the hill to die for is the arbitration, or and where does Dianne Feinstein? How angry is she?
Well, and to answer your first question, that's exactly why our questionnaire takes the legislation piece by piece, because there have been discussions and public press reports about the fact that the unions and their backers are looking to split this baby up and do it piecemeal and just get their key provisions by and leave some others out as a means of getting it through. And that's why we're asking candidates where they stand on each of the aspects of it, because legislation in Congress can take many forms and many different shapes and sizes. And so seeing where they stand on the key components is important.
I'm familiar with the secret ballot part of this, and organizations that have formed for that. In fact, I'm part of an organization that's trying to preserve the secret ballot. And over the last 6 months, seen some polling data that really didn't surprise me, and that's that regardless of whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, the ability to vote, have a secret vote in the union, in the workplace, as well as the ballot box, is something that anywhere from 65 to 78% of all Nevadans want to preserve. And even in union households, we've seen numbers on two, and these are big polls. These are our national polls. It wasn't just some goofy little, having your sister call up their best friends whose dad's in the union, and ask. Have union households at in the mid-60s as supporting a secret ballot. So there's widespread support for what you're trying to do, isn't there, amongst the citizens?
There is, and it goes back to why again. The support among union households and members of labor unions is because they recognize they're losing their right to privacy, their right to a secret ballot, and their right to without pressure convey their opinion and how they feel. They recognize this doesn't benefit them. This benefits their the union bosses. I actually was having a conversation with a union member a couple of weeks ago, and he said almost exactly that the purpose of the union is not for the individual worker, but for the collective. Once you're part of the union, the individual worker doesn't matter. It's the union that matters. And I was just aghast at hearing that, but I think that is a window into the mindset of where some of these unions are coming from on it.
I love telling the story. I was a former union member of the stagehands union. They also represented the TV and film guys in town, and so it was Local 720. And I remember all the contracts were up